Hey guys, welcome back to Wentworth Life, the channel that talks all things Wentworth. Now, today I am here to do an episode review on Season 4, Episode 11, titled 11th Hour. And this is the pre-final episode of Series 4, and pre-final episodes are usually full of storylines that are bubbling to the very top just in time for the final, and there is going to be a lot to unpack in today's video. I'm gonna kick this off with this very rare opening scene because we get a scene between Joan and Shane before the credits have even rolled. Joan is telling Shane where he can find a box that's hidden in her house that will basically explain everything about his mother's death and who was responsible. And in Joan's mind, that person responsible is Will Jackson. It's a really good dramatic intro, and it really gets you thinking that Will is going to be in for some serious trouble in these final 2 episodes. This is, of course, revenge for Joan. She's been working on her revenge plan for quite some time now, and it's looking like that she's going to get Shane to do her dirty work. I actually really liked this pre-scene moment before the credits rolled. It was different, and I think the only other time where they did this was in Series 7, the final episode during the siege, when it's revealed that Costa is the one who's been shot and killed. So it's always cool when they mix it up a little bit like this. Sticking with Joan for a moment, Joan is in for a shock when that box that Shane opens up, it actually goes a little bit against Joan, because when Shane comes in for another visit with Auntie Joan, he is furious. He's furious that she had been following him around when he was a young child and taking photos of him. Little bit creepy, Joan. Instead of going to get him and trying to adopt him from his foster families, because Shane reveals that he had a really rough time growing up in his foster families, that it was shit, and he gets really upset, and I can only totally feel for him. I mean, why didn't Joan try and claim custody on Shane when he was a little boy? He obviously had no other family around. I mean, that's a very interesting question. Let me know in the comments box below, because I would love to hear your take on this. Why do you think Joan never adopted Shane when he was little, if he was so important to her? So Shane isn't happy with Auntie Joan, and he goes on a little bit of a binge party with his friends in Joan's house, and Joan has a little bit of a freak out when she hears this party while she's on the phone to Shane trying to apologize, and she's just like, Shane, I hope you're not making a mess. It's Joan's worst nightmare, and I would have loved for Joan to have seen the mess that Shane and his friends caused in her house. They were like bonging as well. I'm just like, oh god. Frankie ends up turning up to see Shane and ends the party, throws Shane into the shower to sort out, sober him up, and then to pretty much put a bit of a rocket up his arse to try and get his life back into gear. Now later on, Shane does end up following Mr. Jackson on a night out and catches him snorting something naughty in the bathroom, and Shane completely loses his shit, and he pins Will up against the wall, accusing him of being a monster for taking him away from his mum, while all along he is he's doing drugs in the bathroom in a nightclub. So Shane is not happy, and he goes back to Joan and he agrees to do it. Well, that's what he says. He just basically says, I'll do it. Now, we don't know what he actually means by that, but I think it's safe to say it's not going to be good for Mr. Jackson. Oh, also, Shane tells Joan about this legal relief officer called Frankie who's been helping him, and Joan of course ends up putting 2 and 2 together, and then later on Shane has it out with Frankie because Joan's told him everything, and then Shane's accusing Frankie of using him, and then she's also seen the news clippings from the box and wants to know what Joan is up to, but Shane, he's just losing his mind now. He's lost it, and he basically ends up throwing Frankie out. But what does Shane have planned for Mr. Jackson? I just gotta say, it is lovely having Frankie back in the series after a little bit of a hiatus, and one of my favourite scenes in this episode is the scene where Frankie goes to the prison to visit Bea, and they're basically chatting about Allie and about, you know, how it's all going, and then Frankie teases Bea about trying the muff. You know what I mean, guys. And Frankie then continues to tell Bea that it tastes like chicken. Oh, I absolutely just love their friendship and their relationship between Bea and Frankie. It is just a massive shame that we didn't get to see more of this going forward for, well, obvious reasons. Speaking of Bea is in love, and her and Allie end up going public with their relationship, which is really, really lush to see. However, does this now put Allie in a bit of danger, making her very vulnerable? I always remember in season 3 when Bea is having that chat with Liz's daughter, Sophie, in the yard, and Bea is telling Sophie that Liz kept everyone in the prison in the dark about her having children because Liz didn't want to put her or Artie in danger while she was in there. And Bea even says that she wishes that she did the same with Debbie. Now, with Bea saying that to Sophie in the last season to now go in public with her relationship with Allie, it always does make me think that this was potentially one of Bea and Allie's biggest mistakes, because I totally understand that they just want to be happy and they want to show the world. We've all been there, guys. But Bea is top dog with enemies. Maybe if Bea wasn't top dog, it would have been a totally different story. Now, I know Bea would do anything to protect Allie, but nobody is invincible, not even Joan Ferguson. Now, we do end up seeing up in this episode that there's going to be quite a shocking cliffhanger, which is just going to confirm everything I've just said about Allie being a target. But let's just quickly rewind now, and as I said, Bea would do anything to protect Allie, and she really does in this episode when she ends up lagging to Vera about Tina Mercado having a whole load of brand new drugs in the prison. The prison is searched, the drugs are found, and Tina is off to the slot. Now, when Kaz and the women end up accusing Allie of being the lagger, Allie's life is in danger. But later on, when Jake tells Tina that it was actually Bea Smith who lagged, Kaz, Tina, and the women, they have it out with Bea in the yard, and Bea, she ends up admitting that she did lag because she is sick of Tina and some of the other women pumping everyone with drugs, and Kaz then ends up telling Bea that she can't be top dog and a lagger. It's one or the other. And Bea takes this one last it's a very sad moment, a really big look at the women. It's really dramatic, and then she decides she's stepping down. I think in her words, she's done. And I absolutely love Bea's face when she actually walks away from the yard. You can literally see, you can visually see the relief lifting off his shoulders. Now, as sad as it is to see Bea lose her top dog job, at the same time, it's really refreshing to see her cut the top dog apron strings. I mean, Bea has done her job and she did it better than anyone else in the whole series, in my opinion, but her time as top dog is now over, and I really felt like it was time. She has other priorities now with Allie in her life. Now is the time for Bea to look after her and Allie and their happiness. Of course, I couldn't review this episode without talking about Bea and Allie's love-making scene, which is one of the most beautiful female love scenes that I have personally ever seen. As we all know, Bea doesn't have, hardly any experience in this field, and Allie, she is so gentle with her, and the moment where Bea actually climaxes and realizes that this is what it's all about, this is what good sex is, I'm just like, yes, bloody yes. I'm sure that's probably what Bea was saying as as well, but but as we all know, this happiness doesn't last much longer after this beautiful love scene, because Allie, she ends up going to the shower alone while Bea is asleep in her bed, and Allie is then attacked by bloody Joan Ferguson. This is a really hard scene for me to watch, not because of how horrific it is, but because I know what this is gonna lead on to for Bea in the next episode. This is the start of Bea's final chapter, her final storyline, and it really gets to me every single time. Allie is hot-shotted by Joan and left to basically rot on the floor, and it's pretty much looking like that Allie is dead, and I honestly thought that she was dead when I first saw this cliffhanger ending, but why did Joan do this? Well, let's not forget that Joan knows that Bea is a hidden witness against her at her upcoming trial. So Joan is now trying to find any way to stop Bea from being there. That is the main important thing here. This is what Joan wants, Bea out of the equation of her trial. Now Joan did try and kill Bea, but you know, she failed, so Allie was next on her list. Bloody Joan Ferguson. Joan isn't the only one on the naughty list in this episode, because, oh god, Snaky Jakey has decided to bring in a ton of drugs into Wentworth, and this is also the first time where we get to meet Turk, a gangland drug boss who will occasionally pop back up in the series every now and again. These are the drugs that Tina Mercado ends up with, and obviously, you know, she ends up losing them when Bea ends up lagging on her, but with Bea lagging and the drugs being found, Tina's outside contact will not pay the money over to Turk and his mob, putting Jake in a very, very dicey situation. He tries everything to try and get the money back. He even tries to steal the drugs back, but completely fails. Then later on during a night out, Jake is surrounded by Turk and his mates, and they put a gun in his mouth, and Turk basically tells him that the money needs to be in his account by midday tomorrow, otherwise next time the gun that's currently in Jake's mouth will have bullets in it. Now I gotta say, I have no sympathy for Jake at all. He is clearly out of his depth, trying to play with the big boys, and straight away he's messed up and he's in trouble. Now Jake ends up telling Joan Ferguson, I mean, out of all of the people, for fuck's sake, Jake, Joan Ferguson, he tells her all about it, and Joan offers Jake the money. She says that she can get her solicitor to transfer 100 grand over to Jake. I mean, yeah. But then Jake is like, what do I have to do it? Ooh, well, this is the moment when Jake sells his soul to Joan Ferguson and becomes even more out of his depth. I do believe that Jake ends up letting Joan into the shower block, or at least he let her out of medical. Like, we don't see it on camera, but I'm sure this is one of the things that he had to do. I'm not 100% sure if Jake knew what Joan was about to do to Allie, but I do think he definitely helped Joan to get to her. It's like I said, it's just one of those things that Joan will want Jake to do, and many more things for him to do going forward. There are so many other things going on as well. You got Kaz continuing to be a bitch and pissing me off in this episode. Boomer thinks that she's pregnant and she doesn't want to get into any fights, and poor Maxine is feeling the full force of chemotherapy. It's all a bit of a mad, sad situation. Now, things are gonna continue to get even crazier in the next episode, which is indeed the season final. But this episode was a fantastic pre-final episode. My favorite moment for me is when Frankie walks into Shane's house party, throws all the friends out, and then she throws him into the shower to sober him up. I don't know what it is, I just love that moment. And my least favorite moment is definitely the cliffhanger ending of Joan hot-shotting Allie. All I can say is my next episode review is gonna be a tearjerker. But now I want to hear all of your thoughts. What were your reactions to this episode when you first watched it? Were you terrified for what was about to come next for Bea? Were you thinking that Joan Ferguson was going to be set free and return in her governor's suit? I know I did. Let me know everything in the comments box below. Okay then guys, thank you all for watching today's video. Make sure you smash that subscribe button, stay safe out there, and I'll see you all again very, very soon.